I wanted to know what happened to Kenobi after episode 3. And this story promised to give you that. So I was super excited to pick it up. I read it and I was very upset. The Republic has fallen, and it turns out that Kenobi's next adventure is to foil the dastardly designs of a desperate water farmer whose weapon of choice is a Halloween costume and a reckless disregard for accounting. It's a Scooby-Doo plot right down to the unmasking of the villain.
Very well said, because that is what it is.
I picked up this book because Obi-Wan Kenobi was right on the cover, right? I actually read it back in 2013, 2014 when it was first released, and I was like super excited. Great, we get to find out about Kenobi because I actually did like episodes 1, 2, and 3, and I wanted to know what happened to Kenobi after episode 3. And this story promised to give you that, so I was super excited to pick it up. I read it, and I was very upset.
Yeah, I read the comments or the reviews on the book, and a lot of people were upset because they thought they were going to learn a lot about Kenobi. When in reality, it's about that unmasking of the Scooby-Doo character, water farmers.
Yeah, it's a generic Western that barely has Kenobi in it. He's not even the B plot. He's like the C plot. So the main character is actually Annalene, who's like the store attendant for the small Western town. Her main storyline follows Oren Galt, who runs a settler's call. It's like a town watch kind of deal, right? Where they run off the Tusken Raiders whenever they attack some of the farmers. And this is like the crux of the story. It's Annalene, Oren, and then the settler's call.
Yeah, and Oren was like a close family friend. Her husband created a way to farm water, but he died. And this Oren Galt guy kind of took over that business, expanded the neighborhood watch, the settler's call.
Because they're getting attacked by Tusken Raiders. Notice, throughout all that description, Kenobi is never mentioned. Because in the story, he's rarely mentioned. He shows up every now and then.
To buy food and water.
To buy food and water and to talk with Annalene and have a little bit of a romance that never really comes to fruition. But this is like any other Western story in that it's about a stranger coming to town and reluctantly helping the locals right injustices using skills he developed in his shadowy dark past, right? Same story we heard in plenty of Clint Eastwood Westerns.
Yeah, and a lot of Westerns, there's always this sheriff, or you're the new sheriff in town, or you're the new law. People just call him Crazy Ben because he's doing crazy things according to them, but he's just trying to get by. He's like pretty boring in the book.
He's a pretty boring character. Like he shows up all throughout. He fights a crate dragon. It's pretty exciting, I guess. The ending is pretty exciting. So he is a part of the story towards the end. He's just not the main point of the story, which this book is titled Kenobi, right? Like, I feel like this book should be titled Annalene Caldwell, a Star Wars Western, special guest starring Obi-Wan Kenobi, sometimes.
Yeah. I think regardless if Obi-Wan was there, the beginning, middle, and end would have been the same.
It would have came to the same result. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi just helps out every now and then.
I don't know. I think I just like it because with him, they can't figure him out. And every time there's danger or something crazy going on, he's like just like brushing it off. Like he's been through hell and back. So they can't figure him out. And that's probably what has Annalene all like in love with him.
He doesn't like calling her Annie because it's a little too close to the other Annie that he knows in his life.
She's like, I haven't felt this way about another guy. I haven't sat alone eating lunch with some random dude. I haven't done this with another dude. But for you, Ben, I'll do it.
Yeah, so they developed this like close relationship, which I thought was going to develop into a romantic relationship, which, spoiler alert, doesn't. Which I think is crap because the Jedi Order has collapsed. And I don't feel like his vow of celibacy should apply anymore. If he's going to try to blend in with the locals, a family does the job just nicely. And also from a Disney selling movies perspective, Obi-Wan Kenobi having a kid with Annalene Caldwell is a great storyline leading up to maybe Rey in episodes, 7, 8, 9.
That's true.
Right? Rey could have been his child from Annalene Caldwell. That would have been interesting, but nope.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Nothing interesting happens other than just a standard Western, which I would say if it's just a Star Wars Western, it's a good story. The author, great writer. I'm not complaining about the story. I'm complaining that Obi-Wan Kenobi's face and name is on the cover and rarely shows up in the story.
Because if it was his story, it would have been really boring, right? Yeah. He eats, he sleeps, he talks to this Qui-Gon through the spirit communication, whatever. Yeah. He goes to check on Luke. He comes back home, sleep, repeat. That is all he does.
Which, you make a good point, yeah. If it was just his story, it would be kind of boring. It would be like a short story where old man in a hole in the desert talks to a ghost.
Talks to a ghost, checks on a kid.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like Annalene, Oren Galt, The Settler's Call, the Tusken Raiders. Yeah. It's all very interesting. I just felt like it should have been titled differently because Obi-Wan Kenobi is not really the main character. And so I read it to get a connection to episode 3 to understand what happened to Kenobi afterwards. And the only really connection from Kenobi and episode 3 is Kenobi's monologues with his former master, Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
And that's really the only time you have a connection and you really understand Kenobi's like guilt and his emotions from what happened in episode 3. But that's basically it.
Yeah, that's it. He still has nightmares about what he did. He mentions a few other Jedis. That is it. I just like it because I'm not a big Star Wars fan. So I got to learn a lot of things from reference. So I had to look up like Qui-Gon and the Sand People, the Tuskens, the Senator, these other Jedis that the Tuskens apparently... There's a Jedi that left the Order to go live with the Tuskens. So that was interesting.
A lot of interesting references. But again, not necessarily tied to Kenobi. Him. So... hammering this point home that this is just a standard Western, we also have the Western trope of the white savior coming in to a small town, helping the locals connect with the Native Americans, right? the Tuskens being the beleaguered natives that he has to help connect the two.
Yep.
Last of the Mohicans, Dances with Wolves, same story. Even Avatar, I think, has the exact same storyline.
That is true.
So this is not a unique story. It's just a standard Western. I want to talk about the Tusken Raiders because I like this story because it does explore the Tusken Raiders a little bit more, which they always seem like back characters in other stories. They are much more in the foreground now. Like, we get to understand them a little bit better. But now I also feel like they're the Fremen from the Dune series. They're both sand dwellers. They're both militaristic societies. And they're both under attack by a larger imperialistic force.
Outside forces,
outside forces,
and they got a spiritual and physical relationship with like the land and the creatures there.
When I was reading Kenobi, I was often confused, and I forgot that the Fremen and the Tusken Raiders are different and separate.
The book does very descriptive. I like the book. I could visualize everything. The Tusken lifestyle from birth just sucks.
It's not for you.
No, it's like they just have layers upon layers of clothing. They never show their skin. And whenever they get scabs, which was like a big problem, they just cover it up with more bandages, more things. Which I guess helps them when they fight, because one of them did get hit by a car or a speeder, and she just bounced off because they're wearing all this crap load of freaking armor. You know. Again,
I read this book back in 2013, but we wanted to read it again because there's a new Kenobi series on Disney Plus that motivated us to read Kenobi. So we're going to talk about the connections between the show and the book, because I think a lot of people are trying to make that connection, but I don't think there is a connection because the book takes place immediately after episode 3, maybe like a few weeks to a few months after, where the show on Disney Plus takes place 10 years afterward.
Yeah. The book is him dropping off baby Luke with his uncle and aunt, and Obi-Wan just starting his watch in Tatooine. But in the TV show, Tatooine? Right?
Tatooine?
Tatooine?
Yeah, let's go
Tatooine? With that. And in the TV show, 10 years later.
Yeah.
He's already a kid, he's doing his things, he's helping around the farm. I guess the only difference during that time, Kenobi stops using his power, and it seems like over the years, he starts forgetting the way of the Jedi, like giving up.
Forgetting away, right? Which I can talk about the show separate from the book, because again, I don't think the book and the show are connected even a little bit, because it's separated by a whole decade. But in the show, he loses his powers kind of, where it seems like he's weak, which I think is not correct in that Yoda sent him to the planet to continue his training. At the end of episode 3, Yoda tells him, you're going to continue your training.
In your solitude on Tatooine, training I have for you.
Training?
An old friend has learned the path to immortality.
So he shouldn't have been weak, but apparently he was.
The book is the beginning of his watch. The movie or the TV show, it's the end of his watch.
Well, no, the end of his watch is episode 4, right? Where Luke is a teenager then, and they go off on an adventure to destroy. Spoiler alert, they kill Darth Vader.
Because in the book, he's talking to a Tusken Ayark, and then he tries to convince her, you know, using a Jedi mind control. He's like, you will let him go. And she's just like, no. He tries to get, will you let him go? It's like, no.
Well, I think he's slowly losing his powers, right? He's like a soldier that's been out of the game for a while. But also, it's mentioned several times throughout different Star Wars books that they can only mind control people with weak minds.
Oh.
So if you have a strong mind or a strong will or what have you, they can't control you. So it could be said that maybe they had a strong mind.
And she was the leader. I just thought it was funny because he's like, what? It's like straight up, no. No, I'm going to kill him. It's like, oh man, I'm going to have to resort to actual negotiations and talking to
I'm going to have to use my words and convince you.
But yeah, it's a good Western. The water farmers, Jabba the Hutt and his gang is mentioned. They have a small part in this book.
Yeah, I liked all the Star Wars references. Like, they just reference things, but they don't really get to explore much of it. If you're a Star Wars fan, I think you'll enjoy it. Even if you want like a sci-fi western, you'll still enjoy it. It's well written. It's just not about Kenobi.
No, you just get to learn a little about him, the way he interacts with these people, and why he's hesitant to start a romance. Well, and you mentioned that it's because of his celibacy or whatever. He's like a monk.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a monk, yeah.
I thought about it more as like, what was it, like a superhero. Like Spider-Man. They find out who his girlfriend is, they try to kill her. In one universe they did. Or Superman, they find out Lois Lane is with him, they try to kill her. You know, that's how I thought about it. Anyone he brings into his life, whoever finds out he's a Jedi, they're going to hurt him by hurting her.
Yeah.
So,
which I guess I'm selfish because I feel like if I am trying to protect someone or I have a mission, I'm the type of person that feels stronger with other people's support. So I would try to recruit people.
They don't want to risk them in the same city. Imagine you're off in freaking whatever planet are in the universe.
What planet is it called?
I don't know. I'm just thinking. I only know past Pluto. I don't know if this
Star Wars. Pluto's not a planet. How dare you? We're gonna get all these hate comments now.
All the track stations are ready.